So this is the concept of Firefox profiling. That is, of the different instance of Firefox for everybody who's using the PC. They can have different instance, right? Question is that is cookies and caches stored separately for different? Yes, everything is different. There is nothing which is same. Cookies, cache, everything is different for both the profiles. Okay, so yes. Now, when working with Selenium, at times you feel that your browser opens, Firefox opens, it goes to a page, and suddenly something goes wrong in the script, and you are not able to find Firebug in Firefox, and if you are not able to debug the scripts. So for that you can install a particular Firefox profile and work with that profile, the profile which is having a Firebug inside it. Right. So now, okay, now how do I get the Firefox profile in the code? Basically, you have to get it like this. I'll create a new profile, new class called Firefox profile, and I write over here WebDriver driver equals to new. But if I write like this line every time Firefox, if I run this again, it will not serve the purpose. It will not open the Firefox window with Firebug. It will not open Ashish's profile. Okay, it will again generate its own profile and open it and destroy the profile when testing is over. Okay, this profile will have nothing. Fine. So for to tell WebDriver that open this particular profile, there is an object called, so there is a class called profiles ini. You create the object of that particular class. Okay, and then you write over here Firefox profile PROF equals to, my profile equals to PROF dot get profile called Ashish. Now, practically, this profiles ini class, it denotes all the profiles which are created on your machine. You can have 10 profiles created, this will denote that. And from all the profiles, I am getting the profile Ashish, and there is an internal class called Firefox profile. This gives you the object of that particular class. And then you pass on this profile object inside the constructor of Firefox driver. Now what do you mean by constructor in Java? Right? Why am I writing like this? Otherwise I just used to write like this. So to understand this, now I will go back to Java and I will tell you the concept of constructors first. Fine. Now let me create a new class called house. Okay. And I'll create a new class as well called test house. Right. Now in the house I have a property like string number, the house number. Right. In test house, suppose I create 3 objects of house class. House h1 equals to new house, h1, h2 and h3, and I write h1 dot how dot number is 100, h2 dot number is 200, h3 dot number is 300. Now what if oh sorry, it's a string. Yeah, tell me.
Earlier, as you told, whenever the Selenium executes the test case, it will start a new instance of the Firefox.
Yes.
Then, what is the exact or specific reason to create this profile? Any advantage of this creating the profile?
Yes, it does this Okay, it does this with certain settings in profile in Firefox. Settings for tab windows, settings for pop-up windows. It actually starts it in a proxy. Okay. Now, as we go forward, right, you will get to know why do we do this. If I explain it to you right now, you will not understand why Selenium starts a new profile every time. Okay, basically it deletes cache, cookies, everything before testing. So to delete that, one of the reasons is that, a very simple layman terms, you have to start the test by deleting all the cache cookies from a fresh browser. So it basically does that with Firefox. Okay, plus there are other reasons as well. For creating your own custom profile, there are other reasons as well. Sometimes you have to work on proxy and all. So for that, when you're working on proxy, you use Firefox profiles. Sometimes you have got HTTPS websites, the secured SSL websites. Like you have to test those websites. Again, you use Firefox profiles to test those websites. We don't use normal Firefox for that. So as we proceed further, you will get the clear answer to this question. Fine. Right. Now this is the house class which I created. This is the house number. Okay. And suppose there's another property called country, the country in which this house is present. Now again I'll have to write h1 dot country is say country A, h2 dot country is B, and h3 dot country is C. Now what happens is that these are just two properties in the class. What if there are 20 properties or 50 properties in the class? Instead of these two, there are 50 sets of properties. Will I be initializing every object like this? This will be a very bad thing, or it will just destroy you. Like you just have to create everything again and again, and you cannot work like this. So for that, to solve this issue, we have constructors. Okay, in Java, we declare a constructor like this: public house. The name of the constructor should be same as name of the class. It's not a function. It's not got any return type. The name is same as the class name, right? And suppose inside this constructor I write system.out.println inside constructor. Okay. Now if I run my test house, you will see that inside constructor gets printed 3 times. Whenever I create the object of the class, whenever I write new house, this particular constructor is called by default. If I am writing new house for the 4th time and I run the code, this will print for the 4th time as well. Whenever I create the object of the class, constructor is called. And inside the constructor we can do the initializations. Okay. Now a constructor can have various kind of variants. For example, I can have a constructor like this: public house, which accepts the house number and the country, right? And in this constructor I can write the number is equal to the number which you pass over in this, and the country is equal to the country which you pass over in this constructor. Okay, and rather than initializing the object like this, I can call it like this. I can create a code. I can write like this: house h4 equals to new house, and house number is 400 and the country is D. So automatically what will happen is that Java will understand I need to call the constructor which accepts an int and a string, which is this one, and it will automatically initialize the object on the fly. You don't have to write separate lines like this: h4 dot this, h4 dot this. So this way I initialize the object as well as I create the object and assign the properties to it. Fine. So out here I can have different properties for different objects and different countries. So if I write over here system.out.println h4.country, it will print 400, it will print D, right? So you can have constructors. This constructor is known as default constructor. Okay, and this kind of scenario in which you create a different constructor with different input parameters. For example, I can also create a constructor which just takes the house number, nothing else, right? So this kind of behavior is known as overloading in Java. That is same name but different input parameters. This is known as constructor overloading. Right? If you in interview they can ask this question, what do you mean by overloading? That means same name but different input parameters. In functions also you can have overloading. For example, if I have a function like this, public void say construct. This is the function which is related to the construction of the house. I can also have a function called public void construct, same name but different parameters, say int bricks, that is construct the house with these many bricks. So whatever number of bricks you will pass on, this house will be constructed with that. So these are two variants of this function. Again, this is known as overloading. The constructors can also be overloaded and the functions can also be overloaded in the class. Right? I think the concept is quite simple, fine. And in testhouse.java, we have actually called the overloaded constructor and passing on the house number and the city. So that's exactly what I do out here. When I'm creating the Firefox profile, I write profile ini class profile equals to new profiles ini. I get all the profiles of my present in my machine, and from all the profiles I get the profile Ashish. Right, and I write WebDriver equals to new Firefox driver and pass over that particular profile in the Firefox driver object. So that Firefox driver will be initialized with that particular profile. If you look at the documentation of Selenium, if you go to Selenium hq.org, and you look at the Java docs, if you look at the class Firefox driver, you will observe that in the constructor summary, these are all the constructors. Now there are various constructors in this class. I am using this one, the one which accepts the Firefox profile. There is a capability object as well. I will talk about that in some time. I will not now, right? But if you pass over that particular profile will launch, and if you run this code, Firefox will open. And hold on just a minute, it's not opening. Hold on, just give me 1 minute. Ashish, it's fine. And I write driver dot get. One more thing, guys, which this mistake most of the people do, they don't write the protocol. They just write gmail.com. Selenium will not work out here. You have to mention the protocol. Okay? Be sure that make sure you mention the protocol. Right? You see that it opens up the Ashish profile, which is having the Google as bookmark and also Firebug in it. Right? This kind of thing will be very helpful when we are testing HTTPS websites. Lately, I actually used some iPhone application to work on simulator, sorry, iPhone. I had to test the website on iPhone and iPhone simulator, and I ended up using Firefox profile over there. There was a scenario in which I had to use, but I actually created a Firefox profile and used it. You know what? In Firefox, if you write about, I'll answer your question in some time, about :config, right? This command, if you give, hit enter and click on that. You promise that you will be careful, right? You click on this. There are various settings. Now these are, you can control the Firefox browser entirely through these settings. Now sometimes I had to test an iPhone, I had to test the website on iPhone simulator, and I ended up using Firefox profile with certain specific settings changed out here. So, and I invoked that profile every time whenever I had to test. So this was one of the scenarios in which I used it, right? Again, it comes with experience, right? It doesn't come directly. But I'm just talking about the profile right now. We'll just follow the basic things. You have to do that. You have to just get the Firefox profile object and just refer the profile which you want to open and go to Gmail. Right. Question being asked is profiling seems. What does it mean by saying careful? By saying careful is that if you are going over here, you can virtually do anything with the browser. That's why they are using the line careful over here. You can change the Firefox browser completely through this. Okay, so don't mess up with the properties out here, otherwise you'll end up, even reinstallation of Firefox will not help you sometimes if you end up doing this. Right. There are a lot of settings, almost all the settings are there. Timeout and all. For example, if I change the timeout to 0 seconds over here, my Firefox will, I think it will give very bad results. Right. Now, question being asked is, profiling looks useful. How is IE and Chrome? How is that IE and Chrome don't have this functionality? Well, you can ask Google and Microsoft why don't they have this kind of functionality. It's just like that. They made it in this way. Fine. Right. Okay. Now, this profiling, yes, you can break the functionalities for ourselves. Yeah. Now we'll stop for profiling out here. We'll be again picking up profiling. We'll be picking up CSS selectors, XPath, and we'll move back to WebDriver. Right. Probably in the next class or today. Let's see how much time we have. Right. But before we do that, I need to cover an important topic of exception handling, which will be used later on. So please be careful out here. Sorry. I'll create a new class and I'll name that class Java exception handling. If a script is running, right, and some error comes up, this topic of exception handling helps you to handle the error. Right. What is exception? Exception is actually an undesired situation in which your program lands. For example, I write over here int x equals to 5 divided by 0. This is an exception. Now if you run this, you will get an exception called arithmetic exception divided by 0. Or if you write over here, if you build an array, integer array I equals to new integer array having 5 elements. So I'm specifying over here that I'll be having an array of integers which will contain 5 integers in it. But if I write I10 equals to 2, I'm assuming basically you have the knowledge of at least arrays. If you don't know what arrays are, you can go to my website, watch the video number 2. It is free for everybody. You can learn from it what arrays are. Right. Now out here I'm trying to give the value to the 11th element, 200. But if you run this code, you will get an error, that array index out of bound exception. So these are exceptions. These are undesired situations in which your program can land into. Fine. Now suppose I have written over here system.out.println A, and after that I write system.out.println B. Okay. In between these lines, the exception is coming. Yeah, I will cover that, event handling and all, yes, obviously. So in between this, the exception is coming. Fine. If you run this, A will be printed, right? And you will get an exception called array index out of bound exception. It will also give you the line number, that is Java exception handling line number 12. In Eclipse, the line number is mentioned out here. Suppose I click on any line, for example I click on this line, then in Eclipse you can actually get the line number from there. This is the line number. Okay. If you move your mouse to different lines, you'll see that line number changing. Okay. Now, if you are running this, A is printing but B is not printing, that means my program is stopping abruptly in between. Okay. I don't want that. Suppose out here somewhere in between I am having WebDriver code which is clicking on a link, but that link is not present, so everything terminates. End of session. You don't want like that. You want that A should be printed, then it should be printed that some error occurred in the program, and then B should be printed. You should be able to recover from the error. So that's why we use the concept of exception handling. So what we do is that if we think that the error is going to come in some lines, we use a try catch block. We write a try block, and then we write a catch block like this, catch exception E. I'll tell you what this exception E is out here, and in this I'll write system.out.println error. Fine. Now if there is no error in the program, if I comment out this line, if I run this, it will work fine. It will print A and B. Fine. Oh, hold on, I think somebody is asking a question. No. Right. So I think it will simply go and print A and B. Fine. But in case if I uncomment this line, it will print A, error and B. That means error came up in this line, then the control went to the catch block, you got the error, and in the catch block you can actually report the error and you can continue execution with the program. So basically this kind of stuff out here, it helps you to write robust programs that even if something happens, you are able to recover from the error. Your script never stops in between. So the exception handling helps you out. And exception E, what is this? Whenever an exception comes up, there is a class called exception. The object of that class is formed internally in the memory, and E becomes the reference to that particular class object, right? And if you write over here system.out.println E dot, you can get the message. What is the error message? If you run this, you'll get the error message as well. 10. Fine. It's the error code actually. If you write over here E dot, what we do is we write something like this. E dot. It's actually, why it was printing 10, I'll tell you. It's not the error code, I'm sorry. If you run this, it's printing 10 because in the 10th index the error is coming. I10 is not valid, right? Now generally what we do is we write like this. E dot print stack trace. If you run this, A will be printed and B will also be printed, right? But along with that, the complete description of exception will be printed. Question being asked is, what if there is a scenario where you don't expect an error, the unknown. Look, if you don't expect, what we do is, to be on the safer side, we keep the lines under try-catch block always. Even if the code which looks stable, even if the error comes in that, we can actually catch the error. So we tend to put everything in a try-catch block, especially the crucial testing steps and all. So this helps you a lot. Right. Now in the try-catch block, if I am writing over here system.out.println, something like this, x and system.out.println y. Fine. Suppose there is no error in the program. Kind of output I am expecting is a, x, y and b. There is no error, the control will not go inside the exception block. If you run this will print this. Fine. But if there is an error, if there is an exception, if there is an exception out here, then if you run this code, it will print a, x, error and b. It will never print this y. What happens is that the line on which the exception comes in the try block, after that line, the control goes inside the catch block and the code continues. Okay, you can debug this program and you can check it out. Debug means run the Java program line by line. Sometimes in C also you debug the scripts, right? I'll just tell you what debugging is. To debug this program, you double click in front of this line. When I double click in front of this line, a small blue dot comes up. Yes, it steps through the code. A small blue dot comes up and you click on this debug icon over here. Not the run icon, but this debug icon, this one. If you run this, you will get this window. Click on yes and the complete look of your Eclipse will change. You will see a small, you will see this line with a green tag. Right, the background is green. That means the code has now stopped on this line. In Java, if you press F6, this line will execute one by one. I again press F6, this gets printed. I again press F6, this line gets executed. Then the control goes inside the catch block. You see that? Y never got printed because the control is now inside the catch block. I press F6, this got printed. Again I press F6, this is the printed. Error is printed in the bottom and B. If you press F8, it will run like a normal Java program and terminate. So there are two shortcuts. One is F6, which will run the code line by line. This is very important. When you make frameworks, you do a lot of debugging. And again F8, which runs normally. Okay, if you debug this code, if you run it in the debug mode again, the control will stop on this line, right? If I press F8, it will run normally and terminate. Fine. If you want to return to the previous window which you were having, well, in that case, in Eclipse, you have this small icon over here. This small icon, if you click on it, this will help you change the perspective. You can change the perspective to Java. You can change to Java perspective and you will move back to the original window. If you select this and change the perspective to debug, you will go to the debug window. So you can change the windows from here. Okay. Another important thing is sometimes people come to me and tell me, fine Ashish, I accidentally closed my package explorer by clicking on this cross sign. How do I get this back? This is a very common problem which many people come to me with. Well, in that case, there are various ways in Eclipse. This is important, you know, this thing will spoil a lot of your time if you don't know this. You see on the bottom left this small icon. Okay. If you click on this, you will get all the consoles which you want to see. If I want to bring back Project Explorer, you can, or Package Explorer, you can click on this. This Package Explorer will come up. Right? Hold on. You click on this, it will come back, and if you right click and uncheck the fast orientation, it will be embedded. You close from here, you open from here, and then sometimes people close console. Again, you can go here, you can open up console from here, you can bring it back. Fine. Or there is another way, you close Package Explorer from here, go to Window, Show View, you can get the Package Explorer from here. Okay, Window Show View has also got all those options. Find either from Window Show View or from this icon you can get. A question being asked is Ant compiler built into Eclipse? Yes, it is. It is. Fine. Only thing is you have to just download the libraries and all everything. Okay, right. So